These things are never shown in the minutes because detailed minutes were not kept of meetings. And it is totally spurious at this stage, 3 years down the road, to say Brian Dempsey was in Rob Royston purely to make money. Totally spurious. And I challenge you to ask Mr McGinn, Mr Farrell, or even Kevin Kelly in these matters, because they knew exactly what was happening. And anything other than that is not true.
The first obligation is imposed by a specific statutory provision. And Mr Dempsey, to comply with that, should have declared his interest in Nardlaw and in the arrangement at the first board meeting at which the matter was discussed. That's a board meeting of Celtic.
Now, I've already asked you twice, and I think we got diverted onto other subjects, but I really would like to take an answer from you on this. And the question is, again, did you voluntarily declare to the board of Celtic your interest and that of the company Nardlaw in the land at Rob Royston?
I can't remember the exact details. I remember this, only this, that when that was put to me, I took legal counsel's opinion afterwards if I had conducted myself wrongly, and legal counsel advised me I hadn't.
What do you say to your accusers today?
Well, it was then, and it is now just total lies. And I wish somebody would come public and say very publicly that I was in here lining my pockets, trying to buy up land at the expense of Celtic, and rest assured, I will deal with it fully. And dealing with it, I will cite the chairman, the vice chairman, the legal director, and other directors to say at any time where I had not conducted myself properly.
Given the embarrassment to Fergus McCann of Brian Dempsey's poor standing with the Parkhead board, why does the would-be Celtic boss have him on his team? A high-profile player for the McCann cause, but a major stumbling block with the Celtic board.
Fergus and Brian almost got together before in the past. But Fergus's ways were not Brian's ways, and Brian's ways were not Fergus's ways. But they each had something the other desired. Brian has a credibility. He's well liked by the fans, who still see him as the White Knight, although he hasn't done anything yet. Fergus has the money, and wasn't particularly liked by the fans. They're wary of Fergus. It's Fergus's attitude. It's his Canadian, North American business attitude, if you like. It doesn't come across well. It doesn't sit easily here. And Fergus, having the money, realised, I think, that he needed the credibility. Brian, having the credibility, needed the money. So, if you like, it was a marriage of convenience. Now they have the money and they have the credibility. Brian suddenly is wealthy, although it's not his, and Fergus has this instant credibility.
Crunch time. Weeks away, when the extraordinary general meeting of Celtic shareholders will settle the club's future. McCann's chances of winning the day are apparently out the park. Celtic's rules lay down that of the club's 20,000 shares, 2/3, that's just over 13,000, any change. And that's the rub for the rebels, because 5 of Celtic's 7 directors have formed a pact, always to vote as one. They hold 6,329 of the club shares and enjoy the proxy votes of hundreds more. On that basis alone, McCann's bid fails. Nor can individual pact members split from it. Trust among pact members is such that they have entered a legally binding contract through a company, Celtic Nominees Limited, which bars individual freedom of action. For the rebels, an apparently impregnable front.
The people who have drawn up this pact have to live with it, and it has, which are negative as far as they're concerned. There's no question in my mind it's unethical. It's certainly an immoral thing to do. Directors have to be free to vote their decisions on the basis of what is best for the club.
The director's vision of what is best for the club is a new, no-cost super stadium away from the old ground to be built at Cambuslang. Celtic FC, the catalyst, with profits galore in the future. Claim the scheme's promoters will rise an hotel, cinemas, bowling alleys, restaurants, and all things to all men leisure complex, with Celtic at the very heart of Cambuslang Xanadu, and all at no cost to the club.
When I approached them about the need for a realistic commercial understanding, I found them very receptive. They couldn't have dominance and control. You know, if they couldn't put up the money, then obviously we had to negotiate an agreement that would make sense to them and to ourselves. And from that basis, I found them very receptive. They listened. They probably didn't understand initially, and I think as we spent more and more time discussing the ramifications of it all, we thrashed out, I think, a very, very effective agreement. What they need from me is to just get the thing to happen. So yes, we keep them informed to a degree, but not blow by blow, because it's really alien to them. I think they'll probably be more confused than they would than I would be helpful in terms of telling them everything that we're doing, because that's really our responsibility.
Patrick Nally has set up a company to handle his various... He calls it aptly Stradivarius. But he is not, he makes clear, in cash terms, an investor in the Celtic scheme.
I'm investing all my time and I'm investing all my expense and cost, yes, because Stradivarius has got 2 very lean years before we have any facilities and start making a return. Pretty substantial, but the guarantee is being written by others.
Now, have you been able to find those people prepared to write that guarantee? Did you find them here in Scotland, in Glasgow, in Britain, or abroad?
No, I found them abroad. It's done through conventional... Obviously, fairly large groups of people that have funds, and those funds can be used to act as security. So it's a sort of funding package with an international bank, which is the way that you would normally approach these things.
And where did you find your benefactors, so to speak?
By just going around, presenting the idea, and talking to some of the people that have done it for me before.
And where are they? Are they Swiss? Are they French?
Well, Swiss is in terms of where they're seated, where they all come from. It's unknown. It's a banking fund. It's a management of a banking fund that gets approached for lots of projects, and we're one, and they think ours is extremely attractive.
Patrick Nally, according to his CV, is the world of sport. Football, rugby, tennis and athletics, all at the highest international level. Celtic's directors are indeed playing in the First League with a sporting hero greater than any they are currently able to field at Parkhead. But throughout the world, scattered through Mr. Nally's sports-promoting career thicker than trophies at Park court cases. In New York, former West Ham, Aston Villa and Welsh international footballer Philip Woosnam is suing a firm with which Patrick Nally was connected for $300 million, alleging fraud in a joint venture to market football in the US. The case before the federal court pulls no punches.
How do you feel about the civil action against you in New York, which alleges in effect that you are a racketeer?
Mr. Woosnam and Mr. Caspers. Very relaxed. My history, again, has shown that I've done a tremendous amount for soccer. I started with the United States Soccer Federation in '76 and did a good job in building soccer interest in the United States and helped, I think, in many ways to bring the World Cup there in 1994. The action has been taken by 2 very good friends of mine, Mr. Caspers and Mr. Woosnam.
Are they still good friends?
They're still extremely good friends, yes, and I wish them well because I think they've done a lot for the sport.
Do you not feel personally pained against an allegation or by an allegation which says, in effect, you know, under the RICO rules, if they find against you or against these companies, you are a racketeer?
The whole American law system quite amusing and quite dramatic, but having been involved in other sort of high-profile court actions around sport, you know, sport attracts media, attracts attention, attracts great exciting things like racketeering. The fact that I know I'm not a racketeer and I know the people that were involved are not racketeers, then you know, I suppose I'm sort of relaxed about it.
In the world of championship tennis too, Mr. Nally was out of court. That is, he settled out of court in an action brought by Texan multimillionaire Lamar Hunt in a dispute about sports promotion and profit.
The settlement was, again, is exactly the same example of using the law. Lamar Hunt had a major battle with the International Tennis Federation and the MIPTC, the Men's Pro Council, back in whenever it was. And he basically was fighting for a restraint of trade, that he couldn't get his World Championship tennis to be run. They were stopping players, they were stopping... And as he had been, if you like, the architect of professional tennis, I think he felt aggrieved and he took it to court.
At the friendly games in New Zealand and in a soccer deal with a German company, relations became strained between Mr. Nally and his associates, who came away from sporting deals with him, which they claim were less than that. Meanwhile, New York looms.
when I first heard of the term racketeer, it just horrified the hell out of me. But of course, when you actually delve into it and understand what is being done, and people creating, if you like, through the media, and perhaps this is a reflection on the media, if somebody calls a company a racketeer, they're assuming that that company immediately will want to stop it, pay a large check, and get it all over and done with. Now, is that a responsible thing to say, then I'm being judged as a racketeer because somebody is using the media to, pan up, to blow up as much as they can a problem to get a financial settlement? I don't find in most people that I deal with, if they're responsible people, that they sit and discuss. If they have concerns, we discuss it, we review it, and we resolve it.
Until he actually brings together all this money and all the component parts and puts down the first brick at Cambuslang, you've got to doubt all these people. You're entitled to doubt all these people because we've waited so long. This is still no more than a dream. And if he comes up with the money, then I'll tell you that this is the most wonderful businessman and wheeler and dealer in the whole of the UK. But until he does that, you've got to hold judgment on him, and Superstadia and Celtic's directors.
The Celtic board have been showing us plans for new stadiums for the last 10 years or so, of one description or another, none of which has come to fruition. It's great to have plans, it's great to have drawings. I think what the supporters want to see is the bulldozers moving in.
Bulldozers for a new Celtic Park. But when? If, as Patrick Nelly claims, the £20 million foundation finance for Cambuslang is in place, why, given the baying fans and the pressing Mr McCann, does the Celtic board not spread the good news, reveal where the money is to come from and when?
It will happen, and yes, obviously it will be very helpful to us and to the club to put all these lingering doubts down, and that the thing is a reality, and it is a reality. But of course, what we can't do is force third parties that are taking substantial financial responsibilities to do it, to go at a speed that's being dictated perhaps because of some media attention.
Will we hear this month, do you think, or...?
In the month of November, yes, I think probably we will. Obviously, everybody would like to have heard it earlier, but yes, I think it'd be fairly easy for us to be able to get all those statements put out before the end of the month.
With Patrick Nally on the team, just how much better can life get at Paradise? Well, according to Mr Nally, a share of the whole development's profits will go to Celtic Football Club as well.
In terms of percentages, I would think probably 40%, but that is a little detail that's still not all finally thrashed out. But they'll get a reasonable percentage of the profits from that facility, because of course they're also a catalyst to attract to that facility. So it's a very fair, very reasonable share of earnings.
In the no money needed world of football clubs get no-cost stadia, and as yet unnamed moneymen pledge their millions to make it happen, it comes as no surprise to discover that Mr Nally, just like Celtic, will not have to put in a penny at Cambuslang. So what do he and his company get from the deal?
What I want is the keys of a multi-purpose stadium built to our specification handed over to me. So there will be a contractor that will have a fixed price design and build. The contractor will be the one concerned that the money's there, not Celtic, because that contractor's got to build it within that price. My interest is when he hands it over to me. My interest is going to be in 1996 when I can turn up for the opening ceremony.
Celtic's directors are committed to one course of action, to fight off Fergus McCann and face the future with their own bold vision at Cambuslang. But what if the moneymen fail to chip in their millions?
If Cambuslang doesn't get off the ground, Celtic will continue to go down because they will need more money to rebuild Parkhead, and they need money for players, and they can't do both. And I would suspect Celtic will continue on a downward spiral. I think then we would be facing the distinct possibility of this club sinking into a mediocrity from which they might never recover.
If the trophies and the glory days are ever to return to Parkhead, one thing is certain. It will need money, a great deal of it, to provide a fitting home for Celtic, put a winning team on the park. Canadian millionaire Fergus McCann says the board can't deliver.
They're not even paying their bills on time. Can't even handle that. They're having to sell players, to pay for another player. They're up against the wall.
The board have said these people are not the right people for Celtic. Well, who is the right people for Celtic? An Arab sheikh comes along and puts in 40 million.
Not knowing Mr McCann personally, he strikes me as being a resourceful man in more ways than one. I would be very surprised if he is approaching the EGM as a lost cause. I feel he may well have an ace or two up his sleeve.
Next Thursday evening at 8:30, BBC Scotland on 1 begins a new series of Up Front with Louise Tate and Jane Frankie taking a fresh look at the major issues affecting Scotland.